everybody, and welcome back to the Bundesliga show, brought to you by Over the Bar. Tuning in this evening for another Match Week Review 6 of the Bundesliga. So, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day you happen to be tuning into us. Hope you're all doing well on this Monday, start of a new week. Although it's the start of the international break, which might be good for some teams and less good for others. Joined by Mark, as usual, who's got a bit of a sore throat this evening. So you have to be careful tonight, Mark.
Yeah, it's going to be you doing most of the work tonight, Rory, because I don't know how it's come about, but it's probably partly to do with this absolutely dreadful weather in South Germany at the minute. I have managed to pick up a sore throat, but still here to give you the news for this week. But this week's Rory's week.
We'll probably lose all our viewers now, unfortunately. But anyway, we'll press on. Really good weekend of footy again. We're going to get stuck into it. Good featured four. Really looking forward to this. So should be good fun. Just before we do get stuck in, just the usual bits and bobs of admin. As per usual, if you can give us a thumbs up, a like on the show, that would be absolutely excellent. Comment along, of course, if you're watching live or afterwards. Really interested to hear your thoughts on how your team has done this weekend, and if you're glad that you've got a bit of a break from footy. Of course, subscribe to the show. Make sure if you're listening via podcast as well, subscribe, leave a rating and a review. That'd be absolutely awesome. Big shout out to our two partners as well, Bully News and Bundesliga Boxes. Keep on producing the goods with both of those guys. So we're just going to get stuck into tonight. We've got 4 games to cover as a featured 4, and then we'll do the best of the rest as per usual. And again, we'll work this chronologically, but we're going to work it chronologically, and we'll probably end up with the best game last anyway. But we'll start in Berlin, Mark, and what was a great afternoon for Union, doing a number on Dortmund again. Have a slight hoodoo on Dortmund. They've obviously got a couple of big results against them in previous seasons gone by. And this, was a game where they got out in front, and the rest was history, really. The first big moment of the match is the penalty that Schlotterbeck trips over Hollerbach inside the area. First keen point to mention is that Schlotterbeck makes the foul on Hollerbach already on a yellow card. So I guess first things first to deal with is whether Schlotterbeck should have been given his marching orders, aside from that, Vogt steps up to the plate and puts in a lovely penalty. I've got a great factoid for you all that Kevin Vogt has scored four goals in his 341 Bundesliga appearances, and 3 of them have been against Dortmund. So really, he loves playing against them. Got themselves out front near enough after about 25 minutes there. And Union were on the front foot for a lot of the first half. Dortmund still had a danger going forwards, but Union timed their second goal brilliantly just before the half. Again, a corner was headed clear, but fell to Vertesen, who was able to let fly on the edge of the area, go through a bunch of bodies and past Kobel in net for 2-0. That's 2-0. And then into the second half, Dortmund were at it. They were a bit more intense. They started to come back into the game. Maximilian Bayer was starting to show chances and a few big chances that he had, but Renault in net stood up to him and made a couple of big saves. Dortmund did eventually get back into obviously 2-1 through Julian Ryerson. Good finish from him against his former club, of course. And he had obviously Walter on the other side for Union playing against his old club. So a couple of friendships and rivalries renewed there. But really, nothing much came after that, Mark, and Union had their own chances. Skarka almost had a good chance, Hollerbach as well. really, I think great win for Union. They've had a really strong start to the season. They outran Dortmund by nearly 9 kilometers. They outsprint them, they out-tackled them, they even had a better XG as well. So if you're looking statistically and overall at this game, Dortmund just didn't get out of first gear, didn't get out of bed. Champions hangover, maybe?
I'm not quite sure I go that far yet, Rory, but I think Union were brilliant in the game. Like, that's the thing with Bo Svensson. I think I mentioned at the beginning of the season they need to go back to basics, and that's exactly what they've done. Like, this is an old school Union side from the year they got in the Europa League, the year they got in the Champions League, and things are looking good for them again at the minute. I mean, Kevin Vogt has really strengthened that defense as well. Like, when they brought him in January from Hoffenheim, it didn't really look a great signing, in truth. I mean, he looked towards the end of his career. He hadn't had the best year at Hoffenheim, but I think he's been a star since he went in, really. And obviously getting that big penalty, not the most conventional penalty taker as well to step up there, but he got the goal that set them off. And as you say, Hollerbach just keeps running, doesn't he? Vertessen was excellent. I think one of the star men is Tom Rother as well. I'm really impressed with Tom Rother, who obviously came from Dortmund. Let's not forget that as well. So maybe Dortmund are looking at that now and thinking, why did we let him go, really? Because they are a little bit weak in that left-back position. I mean, Rierson is okay, but he does go through peaks and troughs, And let's not forget as well that Rierson was also an ex-Unioner as well, who scored in this game. But in truth, there weren't many positive marks from Dortmund in this whole fixture, really. I mean, Guirassy was mostly out of the game. Apart from on the goal, he did have like a pre-assist for the goal, but that was it, really. Bayer really struggled out on the wing. My God, he's probably a little bit worried at the minute because he's not in the Germany squad now. He's shipped out to the U21s. Jan Koto, I'm not overly impressed with him either at right back. I mean, obviously they got him on loan at City, but he's yet to really excel. Nuri Sahin is not doing that well, in truth. I'm going to be honest. I think obviously they got that 7-1 win against Celtic in the Champions League, but let's be honest, Celtic pretty much take hammerings every year in the Champions League. Let's be serious now. And I just feel as though he doesn't know his starting 11. I mean, obviously, Bayer coming in just didn't work. I mean, where Marlon is, I don't know, really. I mean, he probably should have started in this game. He came off the bench again. I mean, Sula's got issues potentially as well. I mean, Nemecha and Sabitzer can't get a game, really, at the minute either. They can't start. So, yeah, I don't think he's getting the team right. I don't feel as though he's getting the lineup right. And it's just not really working for him at the minute. Obviously, they've had a few good moments. The Champions League games have been great. I mean, they're sitting top of the, fledgling Champions League table at the minute out of 36 teams. So that is pretty impressive. But in the league, 2 defeats in just 6 games. It could have been more as well. Let's not forget that they were 2 down against Bochum and should have been 3 down as well in that one. So and I don't feel as though they've had the hardest fixture list either. So they're going to be worried. Things aren't looking that good for them at the minute. But Union, back to basics, back to what Urs Fischer did, solid defensively, hard-working midfield, take your chances when they come. And, really good start from them, 11 points from 6 games.
Yeah, absolutely. Nuri Sahin was insisting in some of his post-match pressers that it's not a mentality problem for Dortmund, even though they have lost both games after the Champions League matches. So, I mean, take from that what you will, Dortmund fans. But yeah, Union, absolutely excellent. Like you say, back to basics in a sense. Dortmund are also winless away from home this season. So yeah, they're struggling on the road. Yeah, I agree. Bayer definitely disappointed. And Union have taken all 9 points available for them at home, obviously at the and Alton Foresterai, which of course, Mark, is going under, well, it will be going under development pretty soon. That news obviously would be really welcome amongst, the Union community. the new development with the stadium will end up being able to have 40,000, just over 40,000 spectators. Obviously, that's a decent increase in terms of being able to welcome people into the stadium. But that's with over 32,000 standing places, which is really interesting. That kind of freestanding sort of positions. The main stand is the only stand, I think, that's not being completely torn down. That's just being extended. And they're likely to go sit in the Olympiastadion for the 2026-27 season whilst the work is being done, because they have to complete the work at the training ground first, which is expected to be done by end of summer 2026. So really welcome news there. And, for the Union community, that's what they're all about. Obviously, we know a lot about their fan base. So that's a nice development for them to have confirmed as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, the First Sarai is a kind of iconic stadium nowadays in the Bundesliga. I mean, it's a lot of standing places, that, to be honest, it really is. I mean, I know most hardcore fans prefer to stand if given the possibility, but that is one hell of a lot of standing places. Yeah, I mean, most stadiums in Germany, they have maybe 20 to 30% of the stadium standing. Normally, the away section is pretty much completely standing in most cases. But it's still 32,000 out of a 40,000. Wow, there's going to be some sore legs after games of that one. But yeah, it's great for football in many ways. I mean, it's probably going to be the most standing places in Europe, I would imagine, in a stadium. So respect to them for that. And yeah, it's a club that's going back in the right direction. I think they've got the right manager. Bo Svensson can re-establish them as a mid-table, at the very least, team in this league. The football's not pretty, really, but I feel as though it's a club it's a team that fits the club, and they're pushing in the right direction again, which is great to see at the minute.
Yeah, 100%. Right, let's just move on then to our next game, which was also a Saturday afternoon kickoff. Beleaguered Bochum. Unfortunately, at the moment, we're having to go back to that. The double B of Bochum right now, losing 3-1 at home to Wolfsburg, who backed up a couple of decent performances and got that win that a lot of their fans feel that they deserve. So I mean, story of this game really, Mark. Well, first of all, there was a penalty overturned. So a penalty was originally awarded for a handball by Franks, but it was overturned after a VAR intervention. So that was the first bit of, not good news for Bochum fans. Then the away side get themselves ahead on around 20 minutes as Amora, someone that we might be talking about a little bit more on this show particularly. And we have to obviously give Wolfsburg a bit of credit because we have not covered them in loads of detail. So that's why, we're focusing in them for this particular game. Does really well to bring down the ball out wide, and then probably produces the pass of the weekend with his outside the foot curler into the path of Thiago Thomas. Admittedly, Thomas still has a lot of work to do, manages to cut inside really well and gets a really powerful but controlled shot off on goal whilst he's falling, basically. But goes in the back of the net. That's for 1-0. Then, on 37 minutes, Jonas Wind manages to get on the end of another Amora assist. This time it's from a half-cleared corner. Goes out onto the edge of the box where Amora can half volley it back into the danger area. Really clever play and accurate play. Jonas Wind is doing what he does best, although he unmarked to the back post, volleys home. Again, kind of in an acrobatic falling kind of sense to make it 2-0. And perfect timing, really. So 2-0 at the break, pretty in control, but they wanted to, break away and make it 3-4. In the second half, they had a number of chances. Again, Amora didn't quite get his goal, hit the post. This was before Bochum eventually got themselves back into the game with about 15 minutes to go. Good work by Broszinski, whipping the ball across goal. Bordeaux finishing really well from close range. natural kind of striker's instincts to get on the end of that there. However, it wasn't really the uplift that Bochum fans maybe would have expected from their players on the pitch, because it was Wolfsburg that went and hit the bar twice after that. Wimmer twice, actually, I think it was. Then eventually a penalty was awarded. This is for a foul from Sissoko on Amora, and also we had another VAR intervention here. Mark, Jonas Finn steps up, but the keeper saves it and he taps it in. We've had a lot of those actually recently, because obviously it's what Demirovic did as well, which we'll come to later. But what did you think on this one? Was this a harsh one? Obviously, it's just one of those where you're just putting your foot up to try and clear it, and you just catch someone a second too late, and they go down, and VAR will just pick up on anything.
Yeah, I actually think the VAR did get the two big decisions right in this game. I feel as though the first penalty was correct. Obviously, Peter Seidler was absolutely gutted about that. He needed a bit of luck, really, the Bochum coach, because not much has gone really their way this season, and that was turned away. And just a few minutes after that, they were already behind. So that wasn't ideal, and it kind of summed up the way Bochum season's going in many ways. I think the second penalty, when I first saw it, I was like, never. It looked as though he got the ball, or there was basically nothing in it. But yeah, it was a little bit soft, but I think the better team won the game, to be honest. I do feel as though Wolfsburg were pretty good in the game. They probably lack that defensive solidity at the minute that in the past they've always had. But I think going forward, I do like that triangle of, as you mentioned, Amora, who's probably the star of the show at the minute for them. Even though he didn't get the goal in this game, I think he was the one that made things happen more than anyone. And Jonas Wind is back amongst the goals by hook or by crook. Obviously, he got a bit of luck with the second, with the penalty, but it's been a while since we've been talking about him on a regular basis, isn't it? And it is good to see him. I think he's got 4 goals this season, which is a good record after 6 games. And Thiago Tomáš as well. Let's not forget him, the former Stuttgart man. It seems a long time ago he was wearing the colours of the VfB, doesn't it? But he's very much a kind of patchy player, isn't he, Thiago Tomáš? He has some really good games, but other times you think, yeah, he's not that great. But, things are looking okay for them from Wolfsburg. They're scoring goals, which is really key as well. They created a good XG in this game, even before the penalty incident. They were well over 2 XG, which is good for an away game. And yeah, they've still got that quality from Maxi Arnold, Vranks in the midfield. It is a quality team. And again, me and you often mentioned the benches, Rory, and this is a strong bench that they've got. They've got the likes of Mailer, Özcan, Gerhardt, Wimmer coming off the bench. Poor beleaguered Hanno Behrens can't get a game at the minute. Kevin Behrens, which is unfortunate because his move really didn't kind of pay off from Union, did it? But,
yeah,
Hasenhüttl is getting a bit of a tune out of that roster. I think they've had a lot of bad luck, to be honest. They've conceded last-minute goals against Leverkusen, late goal against Bayern, last minute against Stuttgart as well. And but they won the 2 games you would have had them down as winning, against Kiel and now against Bochum. So there is potential in this team, but much like teams like Gladbach, they've got to start doing it on a regular basis, and they've got to turn late losses into draws. They've got to turn late draws into wins, and they've got to start showing that kind of mettle that they had under Oliver Glasner those years ago. Because Wolfsburg is a well-backed club. It's not a big club, but they've got a lot of money, and the fans will expect them to be at least in the top half of the league. And I do believe that Hasenhüttl has the chance to get them there this season, but they need that consistency and that mettle, really, which they've lacked in the last 2-3 seasons for me.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Also think that Grabara as well, obviously, the keeper who makes quite an impression with his protective mask on. I think he's done well in there, actually, replacing Cohen Castells. Big shoes to fill. I think he's done a really good job slotting in there as well. interesting comparison as well between these two teams in terms of the age profile. Bochum's was over 29, and Wolfsburg's was just under 25. So, 4 years in between them, but showing that. And I feel the problem for Bochum is, and whether it's a problem or not, I felt that that's probably the best team that he could have gone with on that game. Peter Zeidler, like, he had Sissoko in the right place, De Witt in the right place, Lucia started, you had Hoffman and Boadu up there. Defense was pretty much about as right as it can get. When I looked at the bench, I probably wouldn't have swapped out too many people, to be honest. So if their best team is still not getting results at home to Wolfsburg, it's their home form as well that's ultimately kept them up for the last few seasons. That's disappeared. And if it wasn't bad enough, obviously after the international break, they've got a massive match when they take on Hoffenheim, obviously, looking like a big one from a relegation sense. But after Hoffenheim, they then play Bayern, Frankfurt, Leverkusen, and Stuttgart on the bounce. Like, how chuffing hard is that? The VfL Bochum need to pick up something because they're bottom of the league. We're not talking about they've had a slow start and they're 16th, 15th. They're bottom of the table. They're below Kiel, and we'll talk about Kiel in a minute, Pauli, but something's got to change. And we were talking about how Pellegrino Matarazzo could be the first casualty from a head coach this season. Bochum might be changing as well if things don't take an upturn. But yeah, absolutely for Wolfsburg, a really good win for them. And their fixtures after the international break actually look quite presentable. So if they can keep that defence pretty solid and build on that, like you say, consistency is key, then they could find themselves climbing the table a little bit more. Right, let us move on to another Saturday afternoon game involving the champions and our Bundesliga newcomers who travelled to Leverkusen, to which I'm sure not even the most optimistic Holstein Kiel fan was maybe expecting too much from this game. However, they obviously, as you can see on screen, and as I'm sure you would have picked up over the weekend, got an amazing point in the Bayer Arena. This is despite the fact that they'd gone down 2-0 super early in the game. Leverkusen flexing their muscles in the first 8 minutes. Really nice goal in terms of the build-up by Leverkusen for the first one. Building it up from deep, Wirtz skipping through players, Palacios flicking it onto Boniface. Great touch and smashing it through Weiner for 1-0. Only a few minutes later, unfortunately, this is a bit of a mistake from Weiner. A bit slow to get the ball out, which is closed down. Leverkusen retrieve the ball, play it through to the returning Jonas Hoffman, who manages to strike on his return, making it 2-0. And then, you're thinking, oh, God, this could be a cricket score. Then we had a disallowed goal. And, we can talk about this in terms of it being a big moment in the match, because of course when you go 3-0 down, you're thinking it's inevitably much harder to retrieve it for a draw or a win. But the goal which Boniface scored was ruled off because of offside after review from VAR. And then the away side got themselves a goal back just before half time in the 50th minute, I think, of the first half, so 5 minutes added on time. Lewis Holtby swinging in a corner, in swinger, and Geschwil probably would have been the most surprised player in the box and on the pitch to pretty much walk in unmarked and unchallenged to head home from close range. I think the only person who was really near him was Andricht, who didn't cover himself in glory in that moment, at least. Making it 2-1, giving the away side great belief. And into the second half, Leverkusen had plenty of the ball, had a few chances here and there, but didn't really create loads. And I think that helped Kiel obviously build up on belief. And, they got their moment in the second half with about 20 minutes to go. The ball kind of breaks loose for Gigovic, who does really, really well to take the ball into the penalty box. Absolutely sits down Jonathan Tah. But the way that Tah falls over for that goal, it reminded me of the Messi and is it Jerome Boateng where he just like makes him sit down in like slow.
Yeah.
It reminded me of that, the way he fell down. So maybe not the same levels, Gigovic versus Messi, but and so the covering defender is Frimpong. He has to make a tackle, or else Gigovic will get a shot off from close range. And it seems like, to be fair, Frimpong plays the ball before he plays the man. But the referee, of course, then blows his whistle and points to the penalty spot. And then Arp, the substitute, steps up, bags it in to the top right corner. So from 2-0 down, they are back at 2-2. I don't want to test your voice too much, Mark. So just very quickly, what did you reckon to the penalty decision?
To be honest, I thought it wasn't a penalty. I'm going to be honest. I think Frimpong won the ball exactly as you said. And they will feel as though they were hard done. Although, to be fair, Jabby at the end of the game did come out and say, respect to Kiel, it was a hard-earned point. They deserved the point, and that Leverkusen weren't good enough. And I do feel as though Kiel were fantastic in the game. Really, they deserve a lot of credit, really a lot of credit for that performance, because I tipped 7-1, I'll be honest. I went for a 7-1 win in this game. Basically that says everything. I think Peter went for a 4-1 or something. So we both went for big wins. And I think pretty much every Bundesliga fan fancied Leverkusen to. And after 8 minutes, it looked as though 7-1 might be a light score, to be honest. Yeah, because... And I also felt as though Leverkusen were maybe a little bit unlucky with the Boniface offside too, because it just looked as though it was the way he leaned over it. It was very, very borderline, let's say that much. As you say, Kiel fought hard. They didn't create bags of chances, but they took the two they got, And actually, they did have a chance to win it as well. Let's not forget that. Let's come back to that, because they did have a chance. I think it was... I believe it was their centre forward, the substitute.
It was
Pickler, I think.
Yeah.
And he had a massive chance. He actually took it quite well, but Herdatsky did well to get back to it and tip it over. But I mean, if they could have won there, imagine the scenes that would have been, But yeah, I think for Leverkusen, they've only got themselves to blame, to be honest, because they're not defending well. That's the issue. I mean, the 2-1 is a joke of a goal, really, from their perspective. I mean, you've literally got to clear that corner and it's half time, and the corner comes straight in. And as you say, Geschwil is like right in front of the basically the goal and just heads it in, and it's garbage defending, that is. And then they couldn't take the chances to make it 3-1, and it's a horror result for Leverkusen. Truly, I mean, the team that made us all believe, the team that did the impossible. A team that did the unthinkable, and in some ways it was kind of sad to see them in that second half be so poor, really, at times, because they were bad in that second half, really. But again, nothing to take away from Kiel. It was a famous result for that club. I mean, absolutely famous result. Probably one of their best results in history, along with knocking, Bayern out of the cup, I think in 2020 or 21.
Yeah.
They're a team that they score goals. Whatever you could say about Kiel, they score goals, and they scored 9 goals in 6 games, which is very, very good for a newly promoted team. They've got to build on this now, though. They can't let this result go away. I mean, they've got Union Berlin at home next, which will probably be a lower scoring game, and they've got to make sure they come out on the right side of that match, because 6 games, no win. It's a long time without a win, but this is the result we could look back on, where Kiel joined the Bundesliga, basically, for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. I think, sometimes with games like this, you can look at Well, I say look at XG. Kiel's XG was higher than Leverkusen's, which is just bonkers. So they can only have, obviously, statistically, apart from that, yeah, Leverkusen dominated in a statistical sense. But I think sometimes we can look at statistics too much and get overwhelmed by it all, because you just have to take in the fact that Kiel were awesome. Leverkusen were off it. They got an absolutely unreal point, and that's just football sometimes, which is great. Like outstanding performances across the Kiel team. Gigovic and Holtby, like in that kind of in that two that they were playing together, were really, really good. I thought the back three as well of Kiel were really good. And because we're only getting to know Kiel a little bit, and hopefully we get to know them for plenty of time, I wanted to I did a bit of research on them all. And just found it really interesting. So obviously the goal scorer, or one of the goal scorers, Geschwil, is a former kind of youth product of Hoffenheim. So he did a bit of time out, and he's obviously just come into Kiel recently. So he, that's fair play to him. Eras as well. Mark, one of your former boys.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, a former Nürnberger. Yeah.
Well, what did you reckon? What did you reckon to him when he was there?
Not massively impressed, to be honest, like pretty much a lot of Nuremberg players. But, he was a kind of player that you always thought there was going to be something more. He was highly rated at Nuremberg, like when he came in. But like a lot of players at Nuremberg, they don't quite manage to do the business. And yeah, but he's rebuilt his career at Kiel. And Kiel were a very, very strong second league team. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think I actually mentioned, I believe they were actually a better team than Pauli last year. That was the way I saw it anyway. So it's a strong second league team, but it's just whether they can make the step up. They've got to do what Heidenheim did, basically. And they do have some quality in that team, Rory, really. I think it's a solid team in my eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other player at the back, that back three that I wanted to mention was Visic. And he comes from Serbia, came to Kiel from second division FK Vodzavac, who are based in Belgrade. So there you go, a bit of geography and a bit of tracking for that for their other player. So yeah, excellent stuff from them, and great for Kiel. But for Leverkusen, no Bundesliga clean sheet yet, although they've got 2 in the Champions League. So has their eye shifted a little bit, like the eye of Sauron? Has it moved away from the Bundesliga? Is it concentrating elsewhere? Blind to what else is going on, because they will not be happy with dropping points at home. Right, to our last featured game of this show. We go to Sunday, obviously yesterday, in what was a topsy-turvy, great Sunday contest between two teams that have been probably the best 2 in the Bundesliga so far this season. Eintracht Frankfurt 3-3 with Bayern. Obviously, a bit of late drama. I'll try and work our way through this one. On Sunday, so yesterday, I was messaging Mark, and Mark was messaging me saying, "Are you watching this game? It's crazy. It's in 1-0, 1-1, 2-1." I was having to reply to him saying, "Well, I can't chuff in watch it because Sky Sports aren't showing it yet. They're only showing the second half." So yeah, thanks, brilliant for that, Sky Sports. But obviously I've caught up, watched the highlights and watched the entire second half. Bayern were dominant in the sense of they pressed so well. They were high up the pitch. I think the halftime average positions were basically all the Bayern players in the second half, or in the attacking half, and all the Frankfurt players' average position was in their own half. So basically, we know where the game was played. But yeah, in terms of the scoring and how things worked, obviously Bayern got off to a good start 15 minutes in, short corner, which was be a bit of a theme of what Bayern were working in this game, was whipped into the back post and found Thomas Muller out of the back stick, does really well, composes himself to square it to Kim. who smashes it in for 1-0. So very well played. Frankfurt, of course, were playing on the break and playing on the break with one player in particular who is just on another level. Is the Bundesliga's best player at the moment. I think how can we not say that? Marmoush was played in by Knauf. Runs past, I think it's Guerrero, and great confidence for Marmoush and smashes it home for 1-1. Lovely stuff. Then standing goalkeeper Santos had to have a really good game, made a number of top saves, made the first of many. This was stopping Thomas Muller, who raced through on goal after a bit of a mix-up at the back. And then the comeback's complete, at least temporarily, as Marmoush then became provider, does really well to get past Upamecano, great pace and strength, to then be able to set up his teammate, Ekitike, who does really well to compose himself, to nutmeg Neuer and make it 2-1. Great scenes. However, that lead did not last very long. Bayern back into it very quickly after another short corner was taken. Really caught out Frankfurt. Very poor play from a defensive point of view, not just assuming that the pass was going to go back out wide, I think, which allowed Bayern to advance the ball into the area. Bit of pinball in the box afterwards, and Upamecano is the last person to get a kick on it, and it goes over the line for 2-2. Amazingly entertaining first half, but one that Bayern, from a territorial sense at least, were dominating. Bayern's continued the second half on the front foot, didn't they? Elise, probably Bayern's shining star really right now. Did excellent work on the edge of the box, just clinical, cutting inside and shooting for 3-2. And then for the rest of the second half, it was very much Frankfurt trying to break. They couldn't quite link up. There was one chance where they could have where they got across the face. I can't remember if it was Mbimbe who nearly got on the end of it or crossed it. So they could have got back into it there. Santos, at the other end, was keeping his side in. It was some amazing saves. Really, the standing goalkeeper for Kevin Trapp was, really shining. And then, deep into added time, a bit more, men forward the Frankfurt were able to commit because, as later on in the game, a bit of a break of the ball, and Bimbe gets ahead to it to play in Marmoush, who latches onto it. And, the Egyptian king that we're now calling him made no mistake to make it 3-3. However, Bayern did almost then win it after that. They hit the bar. Who was it? It was, I think it was Muller maybe. And then there was a chance for Paulinho right at the end, but his shot was deflected up in the air. To finish a game that was, outstanding on the eye. Number of excellent players that were profiled in this one, Mark. What did you make of it all? And were you impressed with the way that Frankfurt set up to counter?
Yeah, I thought it was a brilliant match. Yeah, partly because of the different tactics employed by both teams. As you say, Bayern, I thought, as they've been for pretty much all of the Vincent Kompany period, have been fantastic. I thought they were really good. Kimmich is back on form. I do like that axis he's got with Pavlovic as well, even though Pavlovic did get nutmegged at one point as well. Let's not forget that. But I still feel as though that is a partnership that's blossoming at the minute. And as you say, Paulinho can't get a start basically in that team, which is, probably a bit hard for him after he's, left the Premier League to come to Germany. Now he can't get a game basically. So that's probably a point worth mentioning as well. But I thought Bayern were excellent in the game, really. Probably apart from defensively, because basically the way that Frankfurt played, they hit them on the counter, and Bayern really struggled to deal with counter-attacking football these days, because the problem is Kim. I've never known a player get dragged out of position as much as Kim. Literally on that first goal, he just came flying out, missed the ball, and at that point it was game over for them, really. And then Upamecano was at fault for the second goal, really. So yeah, I mean, that's probably the big worry for Bayern, really, is that the centre-half partnership is still not really working at times. It's probably been a little bit better than last season, but they can get dragged apart. We also saw it against Aston Villa in midweek as well. That was also a counter-attack. And yeah, Manuel Neuer doesn't really make the massive saves he used to anymore, which you can't really expect. None of those goals he was expected to save, but in the past he would have been making at least one save on those three, probably. And but again, a lot of credit for Marmoush, because the pressure when he runs through on goal for that third goal, like any other man, so many strikers would have messed that up, really. So many strikers would have either hit it straight to the keeper or smashed it high and wide or tried to square it when there was nobody there and stuff. But Marmoush, the man he is at the minute, just always looks so confident, and he finished it with aplomb, really, and brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I think it was a deserved point for Frankfurt. I really do, even though all the statistics were in favour of Bayern. All three goals were of the highest quality from Frankfurt. And that was the tactic that Topmuller played, I think. I think he wanted to hit them on the counter. He knew that brilliant strike force of Marmoush and Ekitike, which is probably the best in the league at the minute, to be honest, was going to cause problems for Kim and Upamecano. And that's exactly what it did. You've got to remember also that Bayern's goals were a little bit scrappy. I mean, that's probably Robin Koch has got to do a little bit more as well, because I think he's been probably the weak link at times for Frankfurt this season. He's quite poor off set plays. As you mentioned, Santos is getting better too. I thought he was really good against Besiktas last week in the Cup. And then he was brilliant in this game despite conceding 3 goals as well. Yeah. So for Frankfurt, if they want to play themselves into the title race, they have to be a little bit better defensively. But probably so do Bayern, really, in a way, because they're not winning these big games. Ultimately, I think they're playing well, and I think Kompany's got a system. There's a lot of players that are playing well in that team. As you mentioned, Muller was good in this game. Olise, I think I mentioned to you, Rory, I didn't realize how good he was, to be honest, and he's really impressed me on so many levels. Like the guy is so good, really. And he's been unlucky not to have more goals, because basically every keeper is making ridiculous saves against him at the minute. I think, as I say, Pavlovic and Kimmich have impressed me. Gnabry at times has been good as well. But at the minute, they're still not winning these big games. They couldn't find a way past Leverkusen. They conceded late here. They lost in Villa after dominating most of the game as well. So it's nowhere near crisis point, because the performances are too good. But they play Stuttgart the first game after the break, which is not going to be easy either. And then I think they have a difficult Champions League game.
Barca next.
Barca away. So it's possible they might not win the next 2 as well. So let's see what happens. But Kompany has probably got to find that winning touch a little bit more. That's what I would say. He's got to get better at seeing out games, maybe a little bit better at finding a way past very good defenses as well, as Aston Villa showed in midweek. But for me, things are mostly good for Bayern, but it's just about refining that killer touch and winning these kind of games again.
Yeah, no, 100%. So yeah, work for Bayern to do. Frankfurt have made a really strong start to the season. We love to see that. And they're managing things well across Europe as well. Their Europa League form is strong. They bounced back after laying a 3-goal league slip in the first match day, and have won both of their games after those trips in Europe as well, which is really important. And I think Topmuller so far has done well in terms of rotating his squad around, which is another plus point for the head coach. Right, so that is our featured four all taken care of. So we have a good 10 minutes here to run through the best of the rest. I think there's definitely only one place for us to start, and I think we will start in Hamburg for the top spiel, where St. Pauli hosted Mainz in what was a really good Saturday night game, actually. And, you know, when you see the top spiel and you see Pauli versus Mainz, not maybe everyone would be thinking that's like a great matchup for a Saturday night game, but you know, I loved it, to be honest. I thought it was a really good game. And yeah, a really important win for Mainz on the road for Bo Henriksen's lads. And really good, Mark, to see. You know, we were talking about this over the weekend. Great to see Johnny Burkhart, you know, back at it and flying. Really clinical goals. Although the first one, the keeper for St. Pauli doesn't cover himself in you know, glory, and Burkhart's smart enough to head it over him. And another couple of assists for Amiri. Mavene, again, is those kind of crosses that he does from deep, just inside of the touchline, are really effective and accurate. So going forward, you know, it's working out nicely for Mainz. And yeah, great to see Johnny B back at it. And another goal for Sieb as well.
Yeah, I think it was a really good Mainz performance, to be honest. As you mentioned, it is fantastic to see Burkhart back at his best, and probably even better, really, than what he was when he got that injury, because he looks the complete business. Like, he finishes every chance he's got. Like, his movement is fantastic as well, as you saw in that first goal. I mean, as you say, the keeper, I'm not sure what he was doing, but that was a really theatrical header, wasn't it? Like, backward header over the keeper. You don't see many goals like that at this level. But yeah, I'm so happy to see Armindo Sieb getting a start as well. I thought he was brilliant in the game on his second start as well. And it's something that surprised me, basically, that he wasn't getting more game time, because he's a player I've always rated. Obviously, following the Zweite closely as well at Greuther Fürth, he was their standout player for a good 2 seasons. So yeah, Amiri, I think, was good as well. And as you mentioned, MW6 as well is a good player. He's kind of like the modern day Borna Souza, isn't he, in a way? Like, he gets so many assists on those balls in. I mean, it's great work, and they're a good team, Mainz, and it's good to see them get back to winning ways in this one. I was happy to see Leitch get a start as well, because he's obviously had issues with depression and things, and I think he was such a good player at Bochum. Do you remember him back at Bochum? And like, he just kind of went off the radar, didn't he, after getting that move to Mainz? But he's back. Yeah, Mercedes Jens is a good player. This is a really strong Mainz team, really. And yeah, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it was the only game that I actually tipped correctly on the predictions as well. This one, I really fancied Mainz to get the win. Peter tipped only one correct, I think it was. Oh, he tipped Leipzig to win in Hoffenheim. I went for the draw. But yeah, well played. Mainz, and Bo Henriksen got a much-needed win on the board there.
Yeah, and although poor old Pauli, the wait goes on for their first home goal. So the Millentor Stadium is still, or Stadion, has not seen a home goal yet. So hopefully it will come for them after the international break. What else did we have? We had Friday night football, Friday night entertainment. It was a good game still, as Augsburg managed to hold off Gladbach, and the Jekyll and Hyde Gladbach returned, Mark. And yeah, a really good win, really hard fought win for Augsburg. Goals coming from a great goal from Kevin Schlotterbeck. I mean, striker's instincts to chest it down and absolutely nail it. You know, into the roof of the net for 1-0. And then, new man who we saw as well off the bench for Augsburg, Claude Maurice, the Frenchman who's come over from Nice on his debut. He looked really sharp, actually. Yeah. Really good kind of cameo. And yeah, got his goal, took it really well, although it might have been slightly deflected on the way in. Kleindienst got his goal, celebrating his call up to the national setup, which is great news for him. Free from a corners. Yeah, not great from a Augsburg perspective. But yeah, I wanted to just mention the Augsburg central midfield, which worked tirelessly all game. Onyeka and Jakic were excellent, weren't they?
I mean, especially on Jaeger, it was unbelievable. This was a really good FCA performance, actually, from start to finish, and they should have won easier than they did, to be honest, because again, it was just a switch off in defence. I think after Schlotterbeck had gone off injured, unfortunately, as well. So Schlotterbeck, I think with Augsburg, they have some really good players there, but they need those players on the pitch at all times, and Schlotterbeck is one of them. I mean, I would say Schlotterbeck, Onyeka. I do like Giannoulis as well. I think he's been good as well. The pickup from Norwich, the left back. Mm-hmm. And then obviously Ascende is probably a step up on Teats, in truth. So I think when he comes back, it's going to be a decent team. And this is a team that should probably have way too much to go down again. The problem is that you always say, Rory, they're very much a home team, Augsburg. I've never known a team as good at home, and then away from home, they just don't show up a lot of the time. And that's the issue with them. And it's been like that for a long time, really, hasn't it? So if they want to go more into that top half, they will have to improve that away form. But great win for them. Gladbach they were outplayed basically in this game, and disappointing for them.
Yeah, getting fed up with what we say about Gladbach. It feels like a too good a squad to keep on doing this, and it could be the end of the road for Gerardo Seriani. I know, we've talked about him very nicely. We've been very pro Seriani, haven't we? But I think we have to look at his record and how long he's been in club and what he did with a Leverkusen side that Xabi Alonso has elevated beyond belief. So, it could be the end of the road for him soon. What else did we have? We had, Sunday night, Hoffenheim, really upsetting. My boys, VfB Stuttgart, obviously on their travels, which they often do a lot better versus when they play at home. Hoffenheim, not only were they resilient, but they were really good going forwards. And whether that says anything about how Stuttgart are struggling defensively is another thing. But Maximilian Mittelstädt, mistake was pounced on by Gendry and finished really well. He's starting just in the last few games. He and Prass are starting to settle in quite nicely into this Hoffenheim system. So credit to both of them. They both had good games. Anton Stark, I know we talk about him a lot, but he was monstrous in this match. He was so good. Deserved to be on a winning side. It's just a shame he's playing centre back rather than in his natural position. So the late penalty gets Stuttgart out of trouble again. It looked like they could have played for another 2 years and they wouldn't have scored. But the penalty gets given. Demirovic steps up, who was really missed as a presence in this game. And I know you were talking to me about El Bilal Touré and how he didn't have his greatest game. And I'd been impressed with him up to this point, but he didn't play well. Takes his penalty, Demirovic, but gets lucky in the sense that he saved. The rebound is slotted in for 1-1. So a bit of an escape for Stuttgart. Any comments on those two quickly?
Yeah, Hoffenheim much improved. And I actually felt like they deserved to win the game, as you say, even though the XG was a lot better for Stuttgart. It was a lot of that came off the penalty and then the rebound. I think before that it was like 1.3 or something. But I felt as though Hoffenheim had the better system and it was a morale-boosting performance. But as is often the case, maybe the shot would have gone in anyway if Akpoguma didn't put his hand up. I don't know. But it's disappointing. It's frustrating. If you're a Hoffenheim fan, you're just going to be, you know what I mean? It's just not going for them at the minute, is it? But that was something to build on, obviously, when they played Bochum, which is basically a must-win for both after the break. Yeah,
absolutely. In our final two games, Leipzig coming out on top in a important win for them on Sunday, of course, because it puts them joint top of the Bundesliga. And obviously, I'm not going to talk much about them today, but they thought they got themselves ahead after a Šeško goal was disallowed for a foul. But then a goaltender managed to take his shot really, really well from a tight angle. Although there were chances for both sides in a more entertaining second half, particularly compared to the first half. Galacci was really good in net, and I think definitely Heidenheim hit the bar. So unlucky Heidenheim. important win on the road for Leipzig, Mark, just doing what they needed to do simply.
Yeah, they've got to do this kind of thing more often, really, Leipzig. I mean, they're not the kind of team who tend to win ugly very often, but this was a step up on the trip to Pauli. They didn't play the best, but they got the win and a level on points with Bayern Munich now, which is huge. I still feel as though we could see more from Leipzig, particularly going forward, actually. But let's not forget that they've kept 5 out of 6 possible clean sheets. So, I mean, that is impressive. They only conceded away in that win against Leverkusen. So that is good numbers. But going forward, it's not quite clicked yet. I feel as though Šeško has not hit his absolute top form yet this season, but it will come sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely. Just want to quickly pick up on saying that Travis has just jumped in the chat. Our good friend, of course, from VfB Americana, saying, just commenting on my lovely kit as well. But is it the year that RBL take the title? Quickly, Mark, do you want to just pick up on what Travis has asked and commented there?
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, I do feel as though at this stage they're the most likely challengers to Bayern Munich. Yeah, because the resilience, they don't concede goals. There's experience there. They didn't have so much of an upheaval. They only really lost Simakon, who they don't seem to be missing that much, to be honest. But they've got to start scoring goals again. I do believe that. I think, teams that win the Bundesliga always score bags of goals, and Leipzig haven't done that so far. So we've still got to see a bit more for them, but I do believe that Bayern's most likely challengers at the minute, but things can change quick.
Yeah, top man, Travis. Hope you're doing well, and look forward to hearing the fallout of your next pod, reviewing the 1-1 draw. I'll certainly be tuning into that. And finally, another win for Freiburg as they climb up to what are they, 4th? Yeah, they're in 4th place after a good win in Werder. Deflected effort from Ritsu Doan. 15 minutes before the end was enough for them to get back to winning ways. A couple of good saves from Atabolu again, Mark. Nice to see him. He's really having a strong season, I feel. Yeah. He made a mistake last week or the week before that. I can't remember when it was. But he's keeping clean sheets and doing well after he had a struggle last season, didn't he? And Freiburg had a bit of a transition season in the fact that Strike was going out, but obviously Schuster has picked up and really run with it. Another great win for Freiburg.
Yeah, this was a real back to the wall kind of win, and as you say, Atabolu was a big reason why they got that win. And I always say that it takes a keeper 2 years to become fully functional as a number one. And I think Christian Streich knew that. He came in very young. He was 19 years old, I think, when he got the starting jersey, which is so young. And I really do believe that in probably 2 or 3 years, he'll be a very top level Bundesliga keeper. Like, you could even be talking about like Bayern, Dortmund kind of level, realistically, with him. But he's been very good this season, and as you say, there's been a marked improvement on his debut campaign last year.
Yeah, absolutely. And Freiburg signed to tighten up defensively again. Obviously, if you throw out that St. Pauli result from last week. Great stuff. Right. Well, that pretty much puts us on the hour marker, and we've reviewed everything that we wanted to. So I'll happily close things up to make sure I continue to give Mark's voice a rest. As per usual, if you can leave a thumbs up on tonight's show, that'd be brilliant. If you've not caught us live, by all means, do leave us a comment based on what you thought of the show. Please do subscribe and turn on those notifications. And as per, if you're a podcast listener, which I know we have many of, a great community that listen on YouTube and audio. If you haven't already, make sure you leave us a rating and a review on there. Of course, if you want to find us on social media, on X, you can find us at @OverTheBarFP and at VillageFooty20. And of course, we're posting stuff all the time on Instagram. Mark and Peter's travels, everywhere that they've been over. You can catch that on Instagram, of course. All of the vlogs are coming out. We'll try and have a few for you over the international break. There's already 2, part 1 and 2 of your little, your great weekend last weekend, Mark. So that there's some great videos and content for you all to enjoy. But that will be us, obviously, for the international break. Like I said, we'll post a few bits and bobs where we can. There might be the odd vlog coming for you. But yeah, next time we'll be back with you, probably for a fantasy draft show to be confirmed. But you'll see that on social media as per. So yeah, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Mark, and your sore voice and your sore throat for battling on through. Great show as always. Thanks to everyone. And yeah, we'll catch you on the other side of the international break. Cheers,
Ciao,
all.
guys.